Let me tell you a quick story about trust, and then we're going to take a break. His name was Rob Cartner, and he's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Back when I was a SWAT team member for our town in Rogers, and at that time, back in the 80s, Rogers was a small community. So getting to come to Tulsa and train with the big boys, that was a big deal. And Rob Cartner was a sergeant at Tulsa PD's Special Operations Team, back at a time when it was considered to be one of the finest SWAT teams in the land. They were great. We used to get to come over here and train with them. And Rob was the kind of guy who would take time, talk to you, build a relationship with you, make you feel like you were important, whether you were from LA or from Rogers, Arkansas. It was great. Which was good because he asked us to do some really crazy, insane things. And one day, at the end of the week of training, the final day of training on Friday, was a big simulated event of some type. Now, we had gone through all kinds of other stuff during that week. I mean, we ran a mile-long obstacle course and did all this rappelling. We did all kinds of crazy stuff, and I was okay with all of that because none of it involved heights. I don't like heights, right? Then on Friday morning, Rob saying, hey, it's a simulated hostage rescue. The hostages are being held in a tall building, and part of the plan was a rooftop assault. A rooftop assault. Well, that sort of begs the question, how do we get on the roof to begin with, right? So I said, Rob, how do we get on the roof to begin with? And he said, SkidRides. I said, what's a skid ride, Rob? He said, it's where you stand on the skid of a helicopter and they transport you to the top of the roof. I said, I think the word you're looking for, Rob, is fly. Transport is what happens to a package when you call UPS. It gets transported. What you're saying is we're going to stand on the outside of a helicopter. They're going to fly us up in the air and put us on top of a building if we're lucky. Yep. Aren't there any seats inside the helicopter, Rob? Yep. Then why don't we sit on them, Rob? And I don't know, maybe fasten our seatbelts, then close the door and glue it shut. How'd that be for a plan, Rob? Nope. He said the most dangerous part of a heli-attack assault is when the helicopter comes in, because if you're sitting inside, you're a sitting duck, and if it takes a minute for everyone to get out and get on the roof, you can't shoot back, everyone can die. So he says the safest thing to do is you stand on the skid, and when the helicopter flares out just above the roof, you step off, and the helicopter leaves, and you move to a defensive position. Right. So sure enough, about an hour later, we're standing out in the field waiting on the helicopters to come in, and that's when I found out they don't attach you to the craft in any way. Oh no. Now they do now, because someone died somewhere, but back then, you just stood on the skid. You held onto the airframe with one hand, and the other hand went through a loop of webbing. The webbing went through the passenger compartment, where we should have been, incidentally, and your teammate on the other side put his hand through the loop and held on. And that's what you did. So if you slipped, if something went wrong and you slipped off of there, the only thing that kept you alive was your grip and the grip of your teammate. Okay, which hopefully he didn't weigh a lot less than you, and you would drag him through and you'd all die. So sure enough, we stand out there and the helicopter come in and they land and we crouch down and we go up and we get on the skid and hold on and it takes off and I did it. And we went and we did our simulated assault with our simulated hostages, but we had real bullets and real explosives, and we rescued them and took out the bad guys, and it was all good. I got to thinking about later, there's only one reason I stood on the skid of the helicopter and did that thing. And that's because of the relationship Rob Cartner had built with me to a point that I trusted him. I trusted that if I did what he said, I would not die. The formula is simple. A little time plus some meaningful communication equals building trust and enables you potentially to soar to new heights. So what I want to challenge you to do is, we're going to take a break. I want to ask you to start that process of building trust today. Even on the break, talk to people about something deeper than, hi, how are you? Okay? Ask them some of the kind of questions we were asking earlier. Start to build that trust now.